Welcome to Mystics and Mischief.
All things spooky and current.
I'm your host, Barbara.
And I'm your host, Glorya.
Don't forget to like, comment, and follow.
So you can join in the mischief too.
And we're recording. Okay. Go ahead, Glorya. Go ahead and give a little spiel as to what this episode's about. And you got this.
Yay! Okay, so today's topic is the spiritual connections in love. And I think I'm going to start this by talking about what love is to me. And to me, love is an energetic bond. It's not just a feeling. It's not just an emotion. It's something spiritual. And there is this neuroscientist. Her name is Tara Swart. And she talks about how there are 3 ways to lift the veil of the spiritual realm and our worldly realm, right? A way to make us be able to get somewhere in between. And those 3 ways are places, times, and people. And for me, the people is what helps lift that veil of spiritual and energetic bonding that is associated with love. Because of that, I think it's very important that we be careful on who we allow into our space, in our lives, our relationships, in our bodies. Because those people their energy will linger with us even when we are ready to. Okay, let's see if this fucking thing works. I'm over here on the floor like a weirdo.
You were starting to explain. I know you did mention, I don't know if I caught the name correctly, Tara Sport? Was it something like that?
Swart, yeah. I actually wrote it down. Hold on. Yeah,
Okay.
Tara Swart. She's a neuroscientist, and she does research on the connection after people pass away and how you can still communicate with them. She's pretty badass. You guys should look her up.
How do we spell her name?
Tara, and then Swart is Swart.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. Oops. Okay.
So for the people who are actually
I'll
watching
leave it
this,
to
I'm
you.
literally on the floor because for some reason that's the only place that the internet is working. So you're welcome, guys.
Okay, Glorya, I'm gonna leave it to you where you want to
Oh yeah,
go
so
from, or we could just start.
what I was talking about like 3 hours ago when we tried to start this was love, and for me how it is not just a feeling or an emotion but an actual spiritual bond and connection. And that's why I think it's so important that we as individuals choose who we love, not just romantically, but, who we allow in our bodies, physically and sexually, and how love can affect us in how we view the world, how we view ourselves, and just kind of our day-to-day life. I think I'm going to try to talk about 2 separate situations and kind of explain how it helped, or I wouldn't even say helped, but how it affected me and how I ended up having a different shift in my view of love and love connections. One of them was a very long, traumatic relationship. I was with this person for 19 years. They were my first true love, or the person I thought loved me. And that relationship caused a lot of trauma, a lot of heartbreak, a lot of moments where I fell into despair and depression. And I think that situation, one, taught me that I was much stronger than I thought I was. It taught me that at some point it is okay to leave a situation should it no longer resonate with you. And it taught me that sometimes our alignments just no longer, we just no longer align with certain people energetically and spiritually. And that it's okay for us to go ahead and make that decision to walk away from a situation if it's no longer for us, if it's no longer helping us grow or helping us, feel that love connection that is so important. I don't want to dwell too much on that situation. I have moved past a lot of it and I try to wish that person the best. More for my children than anything else, because we did have two beautiful, wonderful children together. And so, because of that, I would never wish ill on that person just because my children deserve a good father. And so, I'm always hoping and putting into the universe that that person does better, that that person does well, that that person heals and moves forward in their life, regardless of whatever happened with us. Uh, but I hope good for them, like I said, because my children deserve it. Um, Another situation that I think helped shape what who I am as an individual is a relationship I got into after my divorce. And this was in my most recent relationship. I wrote a book I wrote a book about him. I actually wrote A Soul's Journey Home, a collection of poetry that was released last year in August. And that book was a testimony to my trials and tribulations in my life. The first section is focused mainly on the romantic love that I felt for that individual. The second portion goes over a lot of trauma that I've dealt with throughout my entire life. And then the last portion of that book revolves around the healing and moving forward from all of the situations. Um, and I think that love showed me such a different viewpoint, because before I didn't think that after my divorce, I didn't believe that I was going to be able to love in the same way. I thought that I kind of closed that door. I was pretty happy being alone. And I thought, if a relationship comes, it's going to be like a fling type situation, which is funny because I'm incapable of having flings. But I didn't think that.
That was cheeky.
So
This is when I was in my 20s, y'all.
get to
Okay, so
that
I ain't
later.
gonna apologize.
But yeah, so I kind of thought that these relationships were meant to just be there for a while and then, have some type of connection and then move past it. And this relationship showed me that it's okay to let go of things. It made me want to let go of my trauma. It made me want to be better and to focus on my growth. Unfortunately, it took that relationship ending for me to want to make those changes and those decisions to be a better person. I think I dwelled on that relationship quite a bit, and I looked at the negativity of it, of losing it for a while. And that was very heartbreaking and hard for me to deal with. But eventually I got to a point where I was just filled with gratitude for having that relationship, for being able to experience that type of love, for being able to grow as a person. And I'm incredibly thankful um, for that individual. I am so happy that I was able to know them in a way that, um, most people don't know them, and that I was able to heal a lot of situations that I went through because of that love. Um, I'm trying to think of what to say so that I'm not like putting their business out there. I want to be respectful of their own lives and whatever it is that they are doing now. And the other half of me wants to be like, this motherfucker did this, this, and this.
Call it out.
I'm
Yeah.
calling out right now.
Yeah.
But no, I really do want to make sure that I try to keep this in a respectful manner.
It's coming out.
You jerk, I loved you. Um, But I am going to mention a few situations that happened, of course, without naming anybody, just so that you can see how it shifted my perspective. So after my divorce, I was 100% certain that I never wanted to remarry. I was like, never again in my life will I ever be married. I am so happy not being married. I am content being on my own. Um, and when I got into my last relationship, they were in the middle of a divorce. And so we were both, not wanting to remarry. At least that is what I believed. That's what that person wanted. Um, like right before we ended up breaking things off, there was this situation where we got into this verbal altercation on the phone. And before you know, that conversation was over, one of the things he said to me was, "You don't even want to get married. Like, what are we doing this for? You don't even want to get married." And my response was, "Well, neither do you." Right? Like, why is this on me? You don't want that shit either. Um and
Yeah.
then that conversation ended with him being like, "All right, I'll see you in a little bit then." And I'm like, "Sure." And that conversation was over, right? But that one remark, "You don't even want to get married," shifted my viewpoint about not just that relationship, but
Mm.
marriage in general. And from literally the second we hung up, I went, "Holy fuck, I want to marry this guy." Like, I want to marry him. I'm going to marry him. And okay, mind you, we had a date planned a couple days later for Valentine's Day. It was going to be our first Valentine's Day together. And so I decided I'm going to write him this poem and make him this card. And I, bought some lingerie and like did the whole spiel. And I had plans on this trip to be like, "Hey, I do want to get married. I want to marry you." Um, and I was planning on telling him all that. We never made it to that trip. We broke up the day before we were supposed to
Uh,
go. And he was actually really late coming over. We were supposed to take off to Colorado and go have a trip together. I was so angry that he was late. He didn't know that I had this whole thing planned, right? That I wanted to spill my entire like heart to him and be like, I'm gonna marry you type thing. He didn't know, so he thought I was just being rude, that I was just being, you know, a bitch,
non-committal.
right?
Non-committal. Yeah.
Um, and so when we broke up, we broke up with it looking like I was just being an asshole, and it seemed like he was being an asshole because he was late to this thing we were supposed to do, and I was being inconsiderate about him being late, and it was a lot of miscommunication. And
Mhm.
that situation and all the stuff that happened after really showed me the importance of communication and making sure that I tell somebody when I care about them. Tell them, when I want to have a life with them. And not to hold back in love. I had a missed opportunity in that situation. We obviously didn't get married, right? We're not together. This was 2.5 years ago or so. Um, And one of the things that I regret the most is that when we broke up, every time we would try to have a conversation about us breaking up, it would lead into an argument because there was so much hurt and pain around the
Mm.
situation that I was unable to have an actual conversation where we were just talking without, hurt behind it. And I want to believe, I don't know because I haven't been in the situation since then, but I want to believe that that moment helped shape me to be able to have those conversations even when I don't want to be able to just tell somebody when I care about them or, be honest with them instead of just making it seem like I don't care. I think a lot of times when we're so in love, we get so hurt that we just stay silent, or we do things because we think it's what's best for the other person, or because you don't want to hurt anybody any
Yeah.
further. I didn't mean to strike
I
a
looked
nerve.
into the camera at that one.
I'm sorry. If you guys were wondering what that yeah was about, watch episode 7 where Barbara talks about her situation, because that will make sense. Um,
Yeah, I'll say more about that later.
but it's not funny, but funny for some reason is the word that's coming to mind. That honestly, I think that relationship could have been fixed with simple communication and not having our feelings hurt. But instead, because I think we both felt so strongly towards each other, we didn't know how to not feel strongly when having these conversations. Um, it was more like, "Oh, you're just being a bitch," or for me, and this is something I really, really regret. I was just like, "God, what a bitch! You're not a man. You can't have a fucking conversation." Like I, that's not that is not the right thing to do, people.
Yeah.
you know, um, uh, testing someone's manhood is never okay. I definitely learned that the hard way.
Not?
I know, right?
Explains
You
a
know,
lot
but
on
like,
my end.
in my
Go ahead.
defense, in my defense, there's no defending this, but still in my defense, I grew up in a household and where my father is extremely machista. And for those of you who don't know, that means he's like, super like that quote unquote manly, doesn't really talk about his feelings, but is able to like talk in general, very stern. I had this idea of what a man is supposed to be and how they're supposed to act. And for me, it was like, why is this person not capable of just telling me how they think and feel? And I wasn't putting together, well, he also is kind of machista, and talking about your feelings is not a thing a lot of men do. And me sitting there being like, what a bitch, is not was not helpful, right? Like at all. Um, and I regret that. I regret that a lot. But that situation, one, taught me that I do at some point. I would like to remarry. I would love to have that family that I used to have, that relationship between a man and a woman that has this deep connection with each other, that, vibrancy and that energy of love. It's just so beautiful. And I regret behaving in a way that pushed that away. And I'm not, just so we are clear here, I'm not saying this entire breakup of this relationship was my fault, okay? I'm saying we were equally at fault for this relationship ending. We both had our own issues, but I don't want to like touch on a lot of his situation, just for his own,
Mhm.
you know, just to not put his business out there. I'm sure people who know me personally are gonna know who I'm talking about, so I don't want to like say too much.
Yeah.
So,
They yeah.
but
Yeah.
but I can't talk about, since I can't talk about, him, I wanna talk about what I learned from it, and it's, like I said, to have an open communication and open dialogue, to be able to have a conversation and, not get so emotional. It's not easy to not be emotional because I'm a crier. Okay, I'm gonna be honest. I fucking cry all the time. I used to be the complete opposite, where I would just never cry. And now I'm a
Mm.
freaking crybaby. Like, you say something mean to me, I'm just gonna be like,
Oh.
"That's so mean." Like, why would you say that to me? Right? Like, I can't do that no more.
Oh.
But the problem is, when I was in that relationship, I was still in that very like masculine, like, no, combative, um type of I get, that's where my energy was. I was just very combative because I had to be that way to save
Mm.
myself from my previous relationship, from my marriage. When I was in that situation where I felt so unsafe and worried about my life, worried that something was going to happen to me, worried that, I was not going to survive for the next day. And it was hard to go from, a relationship like that where you're degraded and treated so horribly for so long, into a situation where a person wants you to be feminine again and take care of you. Like it's not an easy shift, you know? So I was very much in my like combative phase and very much in a, like a warrior stance, like, oh no, you're not gonna do this or talk to me like that. Or like I didn't um open myself up for communication even when it was there. And I remember always being like, you don't ever like, you don't talk to me, you don't tell me, you know, what you're feeling or whatever. And after I was no longer in that relationship, I went, you know what? He told me quite a lot and I wasn't listening. I didn't properly listen. And so one thing that this love showed me was when you ask someone to do something and they fucking do it, fucking listen. Like, be open to you know, communication. Like, don't just ask for communication, actually listen when they're talking, you know. And a lot of times I wouldn't allow them to finish what they were saying because I'd be like, no, 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 but this, and this, you know, and that wasn't okay either. And so having to learn after the fact to shift back into my, like, you know, my feminine. And I'm not saying that it's bad to be in a masculine sense because sometimes it's necessary. But I think men and women both need to know when to shift the masculinity and femininity on and off because we both have, you know, the capability of both things and both are necessary. That balance is very necessary. But in this
Yeah.
relationship, I I learned that um I was not in a mental headspace to be in that relationship. And for a long time, I was like
Mm.
confused as to why it ended because um, I've always been one of those people that like it doesn't matter what is like you fight for everything. If you love something, you fight for it, right? And so that's where my mind was. Like I was never trying to argue with this person intentionally because I was, you know, expecting something of them, or maybe I was. I'm not. I guess I probably was, to be honest. Um, but I wasn't trying to be mean. I was trying to fight for our
Mm.
relationship because that's the only way I knew how. Um, and
Mm.
so I think this type of love taught me to calm the fuck down, to you know, to have actual like conversations, to allow the person that I'm with to open up and to, you know, feel comfortable enough to having conversations with me. And it's funny because like I love debating. You know, me and you talk about politics all the time, but me and you are also very aligned in politics. So there we don't really like argue about it. But me and my father have always been very like boisterous and very uh, like we like to debate. And so me and him will sit there and have these conversations and it sounds like we're arguing, but we're just talking because we're so like we just speak with such excitement and belief
I know what you
behind our
mean.
words.
Yeah, I have that with my dad. Yeah.
Yeah, and so when I would do that with this person, I didn't realize that they thought I was arguing with them. I'm over here having a regular ass conversation and they think we're fighting. And I wouldn't even know. I wouldn't know till later where they'd be like, "Well,
Thanks
I
for
won that
opening up my
argument."
eyes. I'm just now realizing this about my own. Like,
I I remember him telling me one time that he won an argument, and I literally like, this is probably emasculating, so I am sorry if you're watching, but I laughed because I was like, "Oh, that's cute. You really believe that? Okay."
yeah.
But for me, because it wasn't even an argument, it was a conversation, right? Like you can't win someone's beliefs. Your belief systems are your own, you know? And so I think for me, I have to learn how to, I guess, allow the other person or to explain to the other person when I'm just having a regular conversation versus when I'm actually arguing. I think at some point he figured out when I was arguing and when I wasn't. But I, this this relationship really taught me the importance of communication and not just that, but of letting go of the things that really have hurt me in the past. Because I noticed, and this is something that we both did to each other, is that we would compare each other to our past relationship. And they did this to me also, and I used to get so annoyed by it, and until I realized I did the same thing. Like if he said something or did something, I would revert back to when my ex-husband did something similar. And I would automatically assume, oh, because my ex-husband did it because of this, mean reason, he must be doing that too. And that was not accurate, like
Like Democrats and Republicans, I think you're about to solve our nation's crisis
you see.
because that is is it not? Is it
So,
not? We're comparing, and it's been that way. We're comparing Democrats, Republicans to past Democrats. You go ahead, girl.
yes,
Solve it.
yes, exactly.
You got
So I'm telling you, this relationship really opened my eyes to a lot of things that I was doing that was not right in a relationship. And I think it's because when I was married, I was so in my feminine. I hate to say it, I was super like a trad wife. Like I would do all the baking. I had a homestead. I would butcher my own animals. I would make everything from scratch. I had a menu that was set up for breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks every single day, every single month. I had my house spick and span. Sex was multiple times a day. Like it was just, I made sure my husband was taken care of. And even though I did those things, he treated me so badly. And so I was terrified of doing that for this new person, even though I loved them so much. And I was not capable of showing him how much he meant to me because I was so afraid he was going to leave and then he left. So it just
yeah.
reaffirmed that belief that, oh, as soon as I want to be soft, as soon as I want to be this feminine, wife type person, that I was going to lose them because they were either going to leave me or treat me like crap. And I think that it took me a while to realize that it's not even, it's not the femininity that makes somebody treat you that way, right? Like you have to be open to still being that best version of yourself when you want to be with somebody because it's not fair that they only see the bad. Because people are always like, oh, well, if they don't love me at my worst, then they don't deserve me at my best. That's bullshit. I don't want to have to deal with your worst every fucking day. And nobody should have to deal with my worst every fucking day because I know I can be a bitch. And dealing with that every fucking day, I wouldn't want to deal with that. Why would I expect someone else to do it? And this relationship taught me that, he was not only deserving of my true feminine self, I was deserving to allow that to happen. Um, and again, I guess that doesn't really matter in that relationship now because it's over. But I think that it helped me in a way that I know that if I go into another relationship or if this one somehow rekindles, then I know how I have to come into that relationship. I know that I have to be open and honest and um allow that person to love me and allow myself to show that I love them too. Because this person never believed that I loved him. When I told him I loved him, you can tell that he didn't believe it. He was insecure for a bunch of different reasons. And I think one of them was not believing that he was deserving of love and not believing that I loved him. And at first I was like, how could he not see how much I love him? How could he not tell? Until I sat back and really thought about it, and I was like, "Holy shit, you know what? I really didn't show him that I loved him." Yeah, I would wake up with him every morning, and I would make him coffee, and I would see him off to work. But that's kinda like the bare minimum, you know? Like, yeah, we would hold hands in bed sometimes, but I didn't sit there and tell him how appreciative I was of what he would do, or how he would be, or how he treated my children. And I think that's something that people need to realize is that you may appreciate something in a relationship, But that doesn't mean the person you're with knows that you appreciate it. That doesn't mean that you're showing that you appreciate it. And I think we all individually need to look at ourselves and make sure we're allowing the other person to hear us say it. Hey, I really appreciate when you do this. Or I really love when you do this. Or this types of moments together mean a lot to me. And I never did that. And I should have. Because there was so much I appreciated. There's so much I miss. There's so much I learned. And so now I'm much more open to be like, you know what? I am grateful. I am grateful for that situation. Unfortunately, it wasn't a forever situation. Unfortunately, I never told him that I wanted to marry him. Even when it was over, even when I, let him know that I was still in love with him, I never told him that I wanted that. And I think it was important for him to be with somebody who wanted that. Because he's, a marriage type of person. Like I can tell he wanted to be married. And I should have told him. And I think fear stops us from doing a lot of things. And I think this relationship taught me that it's okay to be afraid, but you still have to do those things that you're afraid of. It's important to drop your walls and to let somebody love you. And it's important that that person knows, hears, and feels that you love them too. And so I think this relationship, out of every relationship that I've been with in, from like teenage years to now, was probably the most beautiful, helpful relationships I've ever been in. I've learned a lot from my marriage, but the things I learned in that marriage were not all good things, right? Like I learned how horrible someone can be. I learned how strong I have to be. I learned how to survive. But being in that mentality and that energy really stunts you when you find somebody who is willing to help you, willing to take care of you, and willing to love you properly. And I think trauma really stunts our ability to be grounded in love. And it is a continuous struggle of having to unlearn the strengths you needed to survive, to move forward into a more calm, loving space and energy.
One and recording. I can't remember where you left off though, but it was a lot of good info.
I think I was just saying that I was appreciative of my last relationship and that it helped me grow a lot. Um, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's where that conversation was when it got all messed up. Um, um, I think that this situation helped me also understand that there you can love someone and um or I guess I should word it this way. Loving someone doesn't mean that they owe you forever. It means that you get to learn and grow from the situation. And sometimes love is meant to just be there to help catapult you into growth and healing. And that's all you can expect from it. Because I think with myself at least, and I know a lot of other people, we go into relationships and we have so many expectations of the other person. And I think that is the wrong way of entering any type of relationship. And that's something I'm still working on, not having expectations. Um, the best thing we can do is allow people to be themselves, love them for who they are. And, sometimes it's meant to be forever, and sometimes it's meant to be a passing love. And I think passing loves can always come back if they're meant to happen, if you realign, if that's what's supposed to happen. But you have to love without expectation, love without putting restrictions on each other. Because I do think that there is too many conditions put onto love. And that's not really fair for anybody. Obviously, I'm not saying that you should love someone just in their assholes or whatever. I'm not saying anything like that. But
Yeah.
I don't want anyone to misconstrue my words and be like, oh, he's only going to be a dick for a little bit. No, if he's a dick, please leave him. Same with the woman. If the woman is not going to change, don't put up with that. Make sure that you are with somebody who loves you back.
Yeah.
It has to be reciprocal,
Yeah.
but without expectation. Allow people to be who they are and love them for who they are. And if you don't love them, then move on. But I think one thing that relationships have taught me is that we have to love ourselves, or at least try to, because it's really hard to have a healthy relationship when you don't think you deserve it. And I think that was one of my problems in my last relationship, is that I was so used to doing so much for someone who treated me so badly that when somebody wanted to treat me good, I didn't know how to allow them to. It scared me. I felt like if I was going to allow this person to love me, then that was going to give them more of an opportunity to hurt me, because I was going to have to be open. And instead I ended up hurting myself. I still have to work on that a little bit. I am hopeful that should I align with somebody, whoever that may be, that I am more open to allowing someone to treat me in a way that I should be treated, and not to have such a guard up. I I also learned recently that although some people are capable of having passing relationships or physical relationships, for me it's just not in like my realm of possibilities. I am incapable of being physically intimate with somebody if I don't have a great emotion towards them. I learned that the hard way. So
I wish that was me.
I think I think we have to, if you're open to that type of relationship, I think that's great. Good for you. I think I'm not judging anybody for that. I just noticed that for myself,
Not.
I I noticed
Yeah.
for myself that all right, if there's family listening, y'all gotta like scooch 5 minutes ahead, okay? So 3, 2, 1. Okay, you better be gone. Okay. So I've noticed that with myself, I'm a fucking freak. Like, holy, there's just things that I want to do in a sexual situation with my man or whoever I'm with, right? And I cannot feel comfortable doing those things with somebody. And there is a very specific thing that I enjoy that I have only done with my ex-husband and this person that I wrote about in my book. Um, I've only done it with those two people ever. And so the thought of doing that with someone I don't love instead of like turning me
Mm.
on is I feel degraded. It feels gross. And that's not, that's just how there's nothing I can do to change that. I tried. um,
Now,
you know,
just for listeners' sake, is that thing listed in your book?
it is hinted in my book, but it's not as graphic. But yes, yes,
So, oh, okay, so we can figure it out.
I believe the poem is called Salted Honey or something like that. So,
Okay.
okay. But yeah, so so
Con-
I'm just not capable of doing that. And I have been celibate for
right.
too fucking long. Right? That was a little aggressive. But that's why. Because I can't like love is so energetic for me. It's so spiritual and sex to me is involved in that. That the thought of being with someone or giving somebody my body or doing those things with somebody who doesn't love me, even if they like me or care for me, is not it doesn't it's not the same and it doesn't feel right to like my being, you know. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how else to explain that, but for me sex is so spiritual and I truly believe that anyone that you allow in your body or that you enter into or whatever, um I believe that you're connected, if not for life, but for at least long periods of time. And anyone that I have given myself to in that sense, I still feel their presence, and I'll still think about them and wish well on them. I don't want to do that with just anybody. Like I don't want I don't want somebody who, you know, didn't love me or I didn't love to be in my energy for years to forever. Um
Mm-hmm.
and it's funny because my sister my sister's advice to me, who she's probably listening, my sister's advice to me is always to go be a hoe. She's like, "You need to get over this person. You need to get over that. Go fuck around, have some fun."
Oh, no,
And
you're so sweet. Yeah.
and I'm like, "I can't. I tried. I really can't. I physically cannot." And I had this situation recently with this person who I found incredibly attractive, and I thought they were very, very nice and very physically appealing to me. Um, and I was not able to um have any type of like sexual relationship with them. And half of me is like, bitch, go get laid. And the other
A
half of me
what?
is like,
It cut out.
I said
Oh,
half of me is like, just go get laid, right? Just go do whatever, have fun. And like I said, if
yeah.
people are into that, like more power to you. But I am not capable of it, even if I physically want to. Mentally, I just can't get there. And then I start to feel like super shitty
Mm.
and I start to feel degraded and like not a human and like a piece of me. And so for me, like love and sexuality is so interconnected that I just can't be with somebody physically if there's no like love in the situation. And that really sucks. That really sucks because I know that a lot of times people will go be with somebody else to get over somebody else. And I can't do that because I think that is such a shitty thing to do to the person you're with, right? Like if I want to get over somebody and then I go sleep with someone else and I'm just using them to get over somebody else. That's so crappy to the person I'm using.
Guys
And
probably
I
disagree. Because
I know a
I
lot of
mean, a
people
lot of people
disagree
do
with
do that,
me.
but I mean,
Uh,
I'm on the other end, so I know the shitty feeling
yeah. Yeah, and
of doing that. You know?
I think that if I found out that someone did that, to me, I would feel worse. And so I think that's why I hold off so much on physical connections. It's not that I don't want to. It's funny because I was talking to my therapist and I was like, I am such a sexaholic. How the hell have I not had sex in almost 3 years? Like, what the fuck? It's so frustrating. Like, someone better love me. I need to do something.
Aw.
Oh my god.
Well,
Okay,
Gloria,
but
you never know.
yeah, you really don't. That's life, right? But yeah, I guess the last portion of this conversation is learning to let go, and I think that's part of the not having expectations of just, you know,
Mm.
whatever's meant to happen is going to happen. You can't force someone to be with you. You can't force someone to stay. You can't force someone to love you. You can't force someone to change or to heal. You know, people just need to do things on their own. And I think that's one of the hardest things for me is to just live in general without expectations of others, to forgive myself for not saying things I wish I said, um, and for forgiving to forgive myself to just not allow the trauma to like hold me in such a prison, you know? Like, I need to really learn to let go and heal and love myself through it and, you know, tell myself that it's okay and just exist. Just exist. I just want to exist until, you know, I align with the person I'm supposed to be with. Because apparently I want to get married at some point. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Now I'm just randomly thinking. But yeah, I think that's kind of it.
That's
That's my
fine.
thoughts. That's my thoughts on love and my thoughts on, you know, sexuality and how I learned from it and how I tried to heal from it and you know, all that stuff.
Thank you for listening. We hope you liked this episode.
You can follow us on YouTube, TikTok, and Spotify.
And Instagram, Audible, and Facebook.
Join us next time for more mischief. Okay, cool.